G'day guys, how's it going? Just bringing you the weekly update on Bitcoin as I like to do. Sorry, I did take last week off. I was away camping with some mates. Didn't get back until sort of midweek, or didn't get back in the swing of things until midweek at least, so decided to just give it a miss. But what we'll do is we'll head to the charts. I'll run you through what happened on what I was talking about in the video from 2 weeks ago, see how that played out, and then we'll take a look at what's going on currently with Bitcoin. Obviously there's a big dump over the weekend, so a lot of exciting things happening in the market at the moment. But yeah, what we'll do, we'll head to the charts and we'll get started. Righto, so here we are, we're looking at Bitcoin on the 4 hour as it was 2 weeks ago when I recorded the video. So at the time I was talking about a short that I'd been picked up in right on the very top of this wick that I was quite happily sitting in, and I was also looking for longs off this lower demand zone, about the 55k zone. So both those actually played out really, really nicely. So if we go forward a little bit, you can see the demand zone acted perfectly, right? We've got a beautiful bounce off there. Now we didn't go super high off it, but that was enough to get a decent risk to reward trade on. If you use the zone, right, that's about a 2.5 to 1. Even if you've been taking profit a bit conservatively, 2 to 1, beautiful trade. So for me, the short was the much better trade. It's played out really, really nicely. So I took profit in 3 levels. I took profit based on this demand zone, the 55k that I was longing from. There's also a second demand zone that I'll talk about in a sec that I took profit on, and I finally took profit on the third demand zone that I was talking about 2 weeks ago, which I kind of regret now, because if I hadn't taken profit on that and I just trailed to stop up like I normally do, I'd be sitting in a very fat profit. But hey, I got out for about a 4 to 1, so you know, you can't be too upset at that. That's a pretty good trade. So that was how the short played out. Now the long, on the other hand, or the other long, right? So there was this long that I spoke about here where we had a beautiful bounce off demand. But when I went camping, I realised that I'd missed the demand zone through here because of this wick. On the Bitstamp chart, I'd ignored this demand zone because it's been pierced really strongly, but it doesn't exist on every other chart. I think it was XBT USD, the BitMEX chart that I was actually trading off, and I don't think it pierces this zone on that. So I looked at it as potentially just a Bitstamp liquidity issue or something. So I actually looked at that as a really high opportunity, let me just clear some of this up, really high opportunity, low risk short, right? Because I could get long, because I could get a really good risk to reward. I looked at it as just a sort of logical spot. I think it was like, say, the daily 50 fib. There was a bunch of stuff lining up here. So I actually ended up taking a long off here that played out really, really nicely. I got a really solid risk to reward off that, and similarly staggered out. So I took profit based on this sort of EQ level. That was my first take profit. My second was based off this supply zone, and then I just trailed up my stop on the remaining third. So I ended up getting stopped out very slightly in profit, basically a break even on the stop out. But so I averaged somewhere around like a 2.2, probably a little bit higher, maybe like a 2.5 on that trade. So stoked with that. The only trade that I wasn't very happy with last week or in the last fortnight was, let me clear my other long, was I decided to take a long off this zone that I spoke about. I think I spoke about it was definitely on the chart in the last video, but I really liked the look of this sort of 50k zone. It had held up really well here, even on Bitstamp when it came down. It lined up with a bunch of stuff. I'd have to go back and look. But so I took a long off that and closed out of my short because I wanted to take it on the BitMEX perp, just for a few reasons to do with liquidity and things. If you watch my funding fees, I think I talk about it there. But yeah, I wanted to take this long off the BitMEX perp chart. And so I actually set, because I was short on the BitMEX perp at the time, set one of my take profits here and made it so that it would close my short and open a long. And it worked out really well, right? It bounced really nicely initially, and I woke up and was like, yeah, I'm in 40% profit, how good. Closed my short at the perfect time, going long, I'm steadily in profit, and then it proceeded to get absolutely smashed. So that didn't work out too well, but you know, what I made on the short and the other longs paid for it, so not too stressed about it. But anyway, it was a great fortnight for me trading. As you can see, those trades played out really, really well. And so, yeah, what we'll do is we'll head to the current time, and I'll talk about what's going on, what I'm seeing in the market at the moment. And so, doing something a little bit different this week, I'm looking at the monthly, because we had a monthly close last Wednesday, the 1st of December. So, the monthly's not something I consider that often. You know, it's a pretty big picture view, and a lot of the time I'm trading the 4 hours, so the monthly's not incredibly relevant to me. Excuse me. But I always do like to see what happens on a monthly close. So it was a bit of a doji, a little bit more bearish than neutral, but not super bearish. Potentially, you know, maybe a little bit of a double top, maybe a little bit of bearish divergence, but it's kind of weird divergence because the peak is back here somewhere in this run. So I probably wouldn't call it divergence. I'm not a divergence expert. Someone that is might say that's divergence. Even if that is a double top, I'm not too concerned about it. It doesn't look... my favourite double tops don't make a higher high. We closed higher than the previous high. So to me, even though it might still keep heading down, it's not the strongest double top. Nothing that I'm sort of considering. I'm not a monthly trader anyway, but the other thing is there's these 2 weekly trend lines, monthly trend lines, sorry. These are big, long term, I'm talking years. 1st of October 12, 1st of September 15. So, we're talking 9 and 6 year trend lines. We're still above them. We're still a little way from them. So that's how I see things on the monthly. The weekly, we finally got the touch on that zone I've been talking about for weeks. So that's nice. Holding that trend line still. Now, I've spoken a few times about how subjective trend lines are. Sorry, I'm moving around a lot. I am moving around a lot. Sorry about that. But I like to draw my trend lines off the line charts. So as you can see, that's why my trend line looks like that. It just helps me make them a little bit more objective, less subjective. And you can see there's a beautiful bounce off it there. And so we've currently held it. That's a pretty big sell-off, but good buyback. So it will remain to be seen what's going on with Bitcoin. Now, if we come down to the dailies, you can see we had a beautiful buy off that demand zone. So we front run a little bit, but it bounced very, very well off that sort of 41k level, which is always a good sign. We've created a supply zone up here about 56 to 59k, and I personally think that's a level that's likely to act as pretty strong resistance if we do get back up there. There's just a bunch of things going on there, right? You've got the 61.8 fib, you've got this daily EQ level, which I'm pretty sure held up sort of the last time we were there as well. When I say the last time, yeah, so I'm talking about here. So right, it was good resistance there as well. You've got this supply zone that we've created, and I think there's even a 4-hour trend line that I'll get to in a sec. So I sort of see this area as being potentially strong resistance if we do get back up there, but on the daily there's not a whole lot that I'm seeing at the moment. Come down to the 4-hour, there's my trend line that I was speaking about there, and I'll just get rid of the daily fibs to sort of clean things up a little bit. So that's the trend line that I was speaking about. Now, I'm not seeing a whole lot on the 4-hour. I'll just preface it by saying that I'm probably not going to trade. I'm probably not going to take 4-hour trades this week because there's just nothing that I really like. I probably will do some scalping, probably do some forex trading. I am pretty big on dialing in on 1 or 2 coins or less coins the better. I'm not big on scanning 100 coins and trying to find things that work. I'm a big believer in finding pairs that work in a way that suits your trade plan. Bitcoin absolutely works for me. And so if I'm not finding much on Bitcoin, I'm not going to force trades. I'm just going to find other ways I can make money. Different strategies that I've got, different time frame trading. I do scalp occasionally. Different markets. I got Forex. I can always go and trade that. So, what I'm seeing right now and what I'm about to describe, I'm probably not going to trade any of it. It's just, I always like to try and figure out what I think the market's going to do. It's just good practice. That said, the levels I'm currently watching are this demand zone, which I don't consider to be a strong zone at all. It's just the best zone we currently have until we get down to 41k. It's been a pretty weak buyback, right? A sell-off like that, we've really seen not much buyback. I mean, if you literally just judge it based off the fibs, in terms of that move, we've just made it back to the 23.6. That's pretty dodgy accounting, but I just want to see, considering... Nah, just ignore all that. Don't worry about that. So this demand zone, I don't think it's a strong zone. We could hold again if it touches it, but it wouldn't surprise me to see it just sort of get smashed as well. We need to head somewhere to find buyers. We potentially have found them with this wick and that move, but I like to see a big V recovery, right? A big buyback after a sell-off like that. And at the moment, it's looking pretty weak. We moved a little bit. We doged it up a lot, bearish engulfing, we've reclaimed that, but we haven't even managed to move higher than where we were before. Doesn't mean we won't in the next couple of 4-hour candles, but for me the market just feels a bit weak, a bit shaky right now. So that's what I'm seeing below us, is just that demand zone. Definitely not taking longs off that. Up above us, this is an area that I do kind of like, right? We've got the 61.8 fib of the 4-hour push, we've got this 4-hour EQ, which has been really strong, especially if you go way back, like I did with the daily, right? That's been a really, really good 4-hour level. So that potentially could act as resistance if we do get back up there. There's what I'd consider a weak supply zone. That's what I call a pause zone, and so you can see, the market tanked down here, bought back up off that wick, which is that wick that I was talking about before, held up just the slightest bit, right? That was a hold up in the sell-off, so we came down. It's called a drop base drop, I think is the technical term, or the other term I've heard for it. But yeah, it's not a zone I'd consider very strong, right? We held up there for literally one candle, proceeded to tank right back through. So a little bit of a supply zone there, not something I'm putting my house on. But I could potentially see, if we do manage to get back up there, so maybe even like this, bounce off the demand zone, head back up here, I could potentially see this being a good spot to short. I probably won't short it, to be honest. I don't like that zone. I don't feel super confident in it. I'd rather sort of just sit on my hands, let Bitcoin make some new structure, and then I'll start trading that. Like I said, I'm probably just going to go and do some scalping, do some Forex trading, let Bitcoin do its thing, and I'll just assess where the market's at in a few days, in a week, see where I'm at. So yeah, that's pretty much me for the week. I hope that sort of gives you some insight. Hopefully you guys have had a great 2 weeks. Hopefully you were protected from the crash. If not, don't stress. It happens to everyone. In fact, one of my mentors, who is a gun trader, from what he said, he's not super happy with his performance over that crash. It absolutely happens. If you weren't using stop losses, that's an easy mistake to fix. Start using stop losses. If it's other things, drop it in the comments, right? Maybe I can help you. Maybe we can work on it together. But if you manage to catch that short and hold that short, like I did not, then good on you. I hope you made fat stacks off that. And that's it. I will see you guys very soon. Hope you're all having a ripper week.